Now you want to get outside running with your dog, but you're not too sure about how to start. In this video, I'm going to go through a couple of things that you need to consider before you start running with your dog. Hi, I'm Reese from The Cared Company and welcome back to this YouTube channel. On this channel, we talk about everything that's involved in running our dog business. Now this is another video in a video series all about running with your dogs. I honestly think running with your dog is one of the greatest adventures you can have with them. But I completely understand that going from walking your dog to running with your dog can be seen as quite a big challenge. And before you do that, you want to consider a couple of things that might be a bit of a barrier to entrance for you or might really help you out. Now in this video, I'm going to go through a couple of things you need to consider before you start running your dog, such as the age, breed, obedience levels, where you're going to do it, and also the fitness level of your dog. Now starting off with the age of your dog, it's ideal to get out running with your dog when your dog's in midlife. I certainly would suggest that you don't consider running with your dog up until about the age of 1, because at that age, dog's bones are still growing, its cartilage, its joints, it's still finding itself into its body composition as an adult dog. And if you start running at such an early age, it might be quite detrimental to the shoulders and the hips and also the back of your dog. Similarly, when your dog's older and in later life, running might be a bit of a challenge, so you might want to either pull it back or reconsider running altogether if your dog's on the older side. But if your dog's somewhere in the middle, then running is the greatest activity you can do with your dog. Now moving on to breed. Breed can either be your friend or foe when it comes to running with your dog. If you have a smaller dog, maybe a lap dog or a toy-sized dog, when you go running, if you think about it, I'm 6 foot tall and I take a generous step like this. For every one of my steps, your little dog might have to take about 5 to maybe even 10 steps. So when you're starting to think about running with your dog, if you have a smaller dog, you'll either want to do shorter distances or maybe even consider running altogether. Now in that same vein, if you've got a very large dog that might be a bit more of a plodder than a runner, you might also want to consider either the pace of your running, the distance of running, or again, running altogether. Large dogs, heavy dogs, the pounding that running puts onto the body might not be the best option for you. You might want to consider doing something else, or you might want to wait till we get to the other point of where we're doing running, and I'll consider a larger dog as well. Now we have a Fox Red Labrador and we've held off until the dog is over 1 to make sure that we don't put too much pressure and stress on the joints of the dog as she's growing. But now she's a puppy and she's got energy levels for days. Running is the ideal activity to tire her out, but also get outside and enjoy the journey together. Now, some breeds of dogs might just take it to like a piece of butter to bread and just naturally be able to run with you all day long, like a Dalmatian or a Husky type dog. But again, you have to consider the difference in those breeds. The Husky dog is going to want to run, but the Husky dog is going to want to pull. So you need to take into consideration the dog's natural breed characteristics of the type of running that you're going to do. For example, if the Husky, and you're running out with the Husky is going to want to pull you along a little bit. And if that's not the type of running you want to do, you're either going to have to work incredibly hard to reorganize the dog's breeding history, or just get used to that type of running. Now, if you have a short-nosed dog, like a pug, or maybe a bulldog, like an English bulldog, perhaps running is not the type of activity you want to do. Maybe you want to take a nice gentleman's stroll down the canal or into the park, because you'll certainly see the dog starts to labour if you start to run with it. That's not to say that you can't get outside and outdoors with your dog, but maybe long distance running is just not the activity for those types of dogs. Next thing you need to consider is the overall fitness levels of your dogs. Now, like I said, the age will sometimes be dependent on the fitness levels or the energy levels, but the overall level of fitness of your dog can be dependent breed to breed and sometimes dog to dog. You'll sometimes have similar Labradors and some have got energy for days and some are just kind of, lazy dogs. That's again not to say that all of those dogs can't get out running, but you have to then make sure that you're tailoring that running distance and the type of running to that individual dog. Now you'll be the best gauge of your dog's fitness levels, but make sure that you consider that and take that into consideration when you're starting running with them. You yourself might be able to knock out 10k easy peasy lemon squeezy, but for your dog that distance continually running might be incredibly, almost far too challenging to ever consider. So make sure you take your level of fitness and your dog's overall dog's level of fitness and make sure that they merge somewhere in the middle. Something to make sure that you consider as well with regards to fitness level is that you might take your dog to the park and you might be able to throw the ball for them and they'll just run after it all day long. But when it comes to running and introducing a dog to running, this is a new activity. So that's absolutely going to mentally stimulate your dog and tire them out like an activity doesn't do. So when you start your running, make sure it's slow, make sure you slowly integrate it into your dog's normal activities, and obviously make sure that it's fun. Now moving on to obedience levels, and this isn't your naughtiness levels of your dog, this is just your overall dog's ability to either stay at heel, not pull, but also when it's out into the great unknown with all the good smells and all the good sniffs, that you're able to rely upon your dog not to be reactive to other dogs. Now you have to take all of that into consideration, because if you're starting to get into running with your dog and your dog doesn't walk to heel well and is constantly pulling, well, you know what's going to happen when you start to run. It's just going to pull even harder. So before you think about running with your dog, you want to make sure that your dog's got a good heel. Now that's not to say that if your dog's got a fantastic heel and you start running, that it's going to stay at heel. It's going to be looking up at you thinking, what the hell are we doing? This is amazing. And there's a good chance it's going to start pulling in front. But we'll discuss how you actually start running with your dog in a separate video. If your dog is a reactive dog, it reacts to other dogs, it reacts to cars or bikes or anything, you need to make sure that you take that into consideration, because as you start to run with your dog, you're going to start to elevate its arousal levels. And a dog that's slightly reactive to other dogs, when you start to run, can become very reactive to other dogs. And that can be a consideration when you start to think of the next point, which is where you're going to run with your dog. Now, if you're blessed with a decent sized garden, you absolutely can start running with your dog in your back garden or your front garden. Certainly when you're starting to consider running with your dog, you want to make sure that the ground is a nice soft ground. Now, if you live in the UK, Scotland, England, there's a good chance the grass is going to be soft, probably soaking wet through, so that's going to be low impact for your dog's joints. I would certainly consider, or certainly reconsider, starting to run with your dog on concrete, but that can be really difficult if you live in an urban area, either within a city, or if there isn't any nice grassed area that has a low level of traffic. And when I talk about traffic, I don't mean cars, I mean people walking, other dogs, other sniffs. That can certainly be very, very distracting for your dog when you're starting to get into running. So where would be the ideal place? The ideal place would be somewhere that your dog's familiar with. So going there isn't brand new and they're looking around and thinking, oh my God, I've never been here before. You want to take them somewhere that they're used to, so that they are going to be focusing on you and not focusing on the surrounding areas to begin with. But you also want to try and consider that there's not going to be as many other people walking their dog or playing football or cycling their bike or, I don't know, drifting their car, whatever. You want to take your dog to a place that it's comfy with, but also it's not going to get distracted, so you can get laser focused on that dog, so you enjoy it and the dog enjoys it. So there's just a couple of points, things that you need to consider before you start running with your dog, which is the age, the breed, the level of fitness, obedience levels, and where you're going to start running with your dog. Like I said, this is one of the videos in a video series all about running with your dog. If you've got any help or any advice from this, and if you found the video overall useful, if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, it really helps me out moving forward. And that's everything I've got for you today. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you out running with your dog. No, I'll see you in the next video. To maybe even 15 steps that I take for every step. I've lost that one there. I'm going to do that again. I don't know where I should start from for that one. Now, you'll be the best gauge of your dog's level. I'm looking at the light. I'm not looking at the camera.